heard of anything more ironic than adultery, but only relevant to women? That it is okay for a man to have multiple wives with multiple children, but if a wife cheats on her husband, she'll be executed? Me neither. But today, in my speech about the Aztecs, you'll learn more about it. From this speech, I hope that you gain more knowledge about the Aztec culture, as well as take something from it. Aztec culture, through its lifetime, had been influenced by the food they ate, the way they lived, as well as the way they grew a family. Through my research about the Aztecs and the fascination that has come with age, I hope to be able to grow your knowledge about the Aztecs. First, I am going to start talking about the different types of food the Aztecs ate, what they grew, and how they survived on what they had. Second, I will touch on points about their culture and how the community was so close-knit. Lastly, I will share some facts about the Aztecs and what they did in their free time, how they entertained themselves when they weren't farming. Aztec culture through its lifetime had been influenced by the food they ate, their culture, as well as what they did in their free time. Certain kinds of food they had available was few and far between, so they had to make do with what they had. Most people in this day and age are used to eating 3 meals per day and having snacks throughout to hold them over. On the other hand, Aztecs ate 2 meals a day, one early in the morning before their day of work, and the second at the hottest hour of the day, usually around 3 o'clock. Liani Chao Fong, author of What Did the Aztecs Eat and Drink? Mexican Food of the Middle Ages, said that the Aztecs were mostly plant-based and often had feasts, and they played a key role in Aztec culture. They were planned around their religious calendar, and they were planned to show material wealth depending on how big the parties were. According to Mike Cartwright, the author of Aztec Food and Agriculture, the Aztec diet was dominated by fruits and vegetables because domesticated animals were limited around the area. Valuable food to the Aztecs would be animals like rabbits, deer, and wild pigs, along with fish, birds, salamanders, frogs, tadpoles, and insects. They even found things like algae, which they used to make into cakes. Along with hunting, farming crops was another way that Aztecs were able to get food. Crops were a huge part of the Aztec diet, and since they spent so much of their time farming, it was something they always had available. Even when the crops weren't in season, they could grow things like nuts and cactuses, as well as fruits and vegetables, and have enough food through the dormant months. Some of the fruit the Aztecs grew included papayas and guavas, and some of the vegetables included maize, which they used to make tortillas and tamales, beans, and chili peppers. Now that I have discussed the different types of food the Aztecs grew, foraged, ate, and hunted for, I will discuss the culture of the Aztecs and how it related to everyday lives. Art and architecture were a big part of Aztec culture, which could be seen in the way they built their houses, bridges, and even aqueducts, which they used to regulate water flow in the lakes and separating the fresh and salt water to be able to bring the fresh, drinkable water into the city. Nicoletta Maestri, from Top 10 Things to Know About Aztecs and Their Empire, explains that Aztec art is best known for its monumental stone sculptures, some of which are impressive in size. Other works in the Aztec culture that they excelled in included feather and textile works, pottery, wooden sculptural art, and obsidian works. Laura Petrata, from 10 Interesting Facts about the Aztecs, states that the Aztecs placed a high emphasis on education, both at home from parents and in school from teachers. Since they had a complex caste social system, the schools were divided by social class, as well as gender. Along with Aztec culture, society among families and the family life within the population is different than what we are used to being in the United States, and the different cultural aspects we go through on a daily basis here in the 21st century. Aztec society is more patriarchal, with a man at the head of the house, and usually he had a primary wife along with many others. The primary wife was given an extravagant wedding, and the children he had with her inherited everything from him. The more wives and children you had between them all, the wealthier you were, and it was more common for poor citizens to have one wife because it was all they could afford. Going off the primary and multiple wives they had, ironically, adultery was a crime. This means that the woman would be put to death if they cheated with her husband with another man, but the men were able to have multiple wives with no penalty. While this seems unethical and one-sided, this was common within the ancient world. The Aztec children were educated unlike many other children in societies, but unlike the school we attend now, it was more military education and preparing to fight. Russell Yost, who wrote Aztec Family and Society, explained that Aztec society was built on warrior so much in the education that it was a military education. They would become esteemed members within the culture, and their healthcare was based on Aztec religion and ritual. Today, I discuss the different food groups and how the Aztec used feasts as a way to show their wealth. Second, I discuss the Aztec culture and how art, architecture, and society had shaped the way the Aztecs live. Finally, I discuss the family aspects around Aztecs, their means of education, and their marital status at the time. Aztec culture, through its lifetime, had been influenced by food they ate, the way they lived, as well as how they grew a family. In conclusion, the Aztec food, culture, society, and family living has further shaped societies, including our own, into where they are today. Thank you.